fun.
Excellent. This morning, we are talking about variable commission and double-sided transactions.
Yeah, so last week, as you recall, we took the top 5 questions, or most commonly asked questions that come in on the support line. And so this is kind of segueing into another branch of questions that we tend to get repeatedly, variable commissions and double-ended transactions. So we thought we'd hit both in today's Tuesday Talk.
So not sexy.
Not a sexy topic.
But
important to know about.
Important because we can mess up very easily with RE Colorado and not designating our listings a variable commission, and you can get in trouble. You can open yourself up to maybe paying a commission when we weren't expecting to pay a commission, or getting fined or whatever.
Yeah.
So
exactly. So typically the variable commission question comes up when you're entering a new listing into the MLS, because there's a section on RE Colorado that says variable commission, and then there's a drop down that says yes or no. And we get the call, I'm entering a listing, what the heck is variable commission?
Yeah. And years ago, which may apply to some of you. Me.
You oldies but goodies.
We used the term variable commission, meaning it was the first $200,000 were going to be charged at a 5% commission, and the next 200,000 we're going to be charged at 5.5%. You know, we had an escalating commission,
and like a tiered structure.
A tiered structure. That's been gone for years. But as you do know, especially the newer agents, they're up on what's going on, and you occasionally run into some old timers that are doing stuff the way we used to do it, which isn't right. So you might run into someone who's doing it incorrectly. A variable commission is a commission in which you, as the listing agent, in the event that you procure the buyer, meaning you double end the transaction, are going to give the seller a discount or a break. So let's say you took a listing at 7%. But, Mr. Seller, in the event that I bring the buyer, I will bring my commission down to a total of 6%, which means I was going to be, paying out maybe a buyer's agent 3%, and I was going to keep 4% as the listing agent, but now I'm going to take the whole thing, and I'll give you a discount on the whole thing. So that's a variable commission, and why this needs to be marked in RE Colorado in your MLS is, let's say you have 2 offers that come in. And let's say they're the same offer. You write an offer. We'll say it's a $500,000 house, so under the median price right now, which is amazing.
One of the lesser expensive out there.
So let's say it's a $500,000 house. You write an offer for $500,000, and that other agent writes an offer $500,000. They're both cash. They're both closed in 30 days. They're both exactly the same. Who has the benefit? If you have a commission where you will reduce, and you've already told your seller in your listing contract, that was part of your agreement when you wrote this up, that you will reduce by 1%. He's going to say $5,000 if he accepts your offer. Versus if he accepts the offer from the other agent, you have to pay them the 3, you're going to keep your 4. That agent is at a disadvantage. And his buyer's at a disadvantage because you're going to reduce your commission.
Yep. So we have to disclose that.
Which means that other agent has the right, he'll see variable commission, he writes up his offer, and he can ask you, what is the commission rate that you are charging your seller so that I can be competitive? Doesn't mean that you can't reduce your commission. It just means that that other agent needs to be notified what that is so that he can advise his buyer how to write a competitive offer.
Because that buyer may want to come in at 505, which
Exactly.
would match the offer that you've presented as far as the net is concerned to the seller.
So extremely important that this is done at the time that you take the listing and you put it in the MLS. I do see agents occasionally, they don't have this discussion up front. What if I'm the procuring cause and I bring the buyer? They don't have that discussion. And now the offer comes in the buyer, you've got a buyer, you present it to your seller, and your seller out of the blue says, well, geez, you're going to make all the money. Will you reduce your commission? You didn't have this discussion in the beginning. The answer should be no. You already had a contract. You agreed to what that contract was, and you never advertised the variable commission.
And that's where the hang-up is people start negotiating this commission, not realizing that they're in default with RA Colorado rules and regulations and violating that variable commission.
Yep. So, not overly complicated. If you have a special deal in the event that you're the procuring cause and working with the buyer, you need to mark variable commission.
Exactly.
So, how do I establish the variable rate commission in a listing agreement? One, up front.
Yes. And we have a Frascona clause for that.
Yeah.
So in the additional provisions section of your listing agreement, you will go and click on the clause button. There is a variable rate commission clause that you import in, and you put the percentage in there or the flat fee or whatever it is, and the language is already pre-templated.
Yeah, it's pretty simple, and the language just pretty much says if you're the procuring cause, on and on and on. The rate is up to you. I mean, what kind of a discount would you want to give someone for you procuring the buyer? And this is a great point for me to say, please don't give away all of your commission.
Yeah.
And I do see this, that agents like, well, if I'm going to do the whole deal, I'll just do it for the regular 3% that I was earning, or 3.5%. Why would you disincentivize yourself to sell your own property? I mean,
right. That's kind of the point of marketing, right? Is to hopefully find the buyer.
Yeah, I mean, that's, so if the seller brings it up to you and says, well, geez, if you sell it yourself, it's like, well, that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
I'm trying to market the property, whether it be, online, flyers, direct mail, whatever it is that your program is, your network, your connections, that's your value. So why would I want to disincentivize myself to get a buyer? Because getting a really good buyer is valuable. That buyer is going to buy. They're going to buy something, and they're worth.
And in the marketplace, they're worth about 2.8% commission
So,
if they were to go buy another house that wasn't your listing.
So let's say that you got this buyer. You did some great marketing. He called you out of the blue. She called you out of the blue off something you did. You've got a 2.8% buyer who wants to buy, let's say it's $1 million house. Let's make it a simple number. That's 28. You have a $28,000 investment in someone that you cultivated, and you have a listing. So you've already got a listing. You already know that you're going to get paid, let's say 3%. You're already going to get paid your $30,000 on your $1 million listing. Now, why would you tell that seller in the beginning, hey, if I bring the buyer in, I'll only charge you 1% on that buyer? Or even worse, I won't even charge you. We'll just charge you the listing fee. That was a $28,000 buyer that you could have found a house for. You could have taken them somewhere else, and you probably would. You probably would show them other things, because to give up $28,000 because I took a listing, that doesn't make sense. No. So be very careful. I don't think we've ever done that, at least not for years, that we reduce in the event that we sell our own.
No, because we always go through that analogy of why would I disincentivize to market your home? Well, if you just want me to do the 4 Ps, place a for sale sign, put it in the MLS, put up a lockbox.
And pray it sells.
Well, great. Then I don't have to spend a lot of time and effort marketing and investing in your property. But if you want me to try and find another buyer, well, then I'm going to work my tail off to do that, and I'm not going to reduce my commission. And when you explain it to them like that, most people completely understand, and the negotiation question never even comes up.
Yeah, have I in the past? Sure, I've done everything. I mean,
we tried it all.
Yeah, I've tried everything, and understanding your value and being able to negotiate. And we'll do a Tuesday Talk and Negotiate. Someone put that on their survey recently. They'd like a class in negotiating it. Classes can just be so overwhelming. I think these little Tuesday Talks will just give you little tidbits. If you just take a tidbit away, I think that's
because the negotiating class could take weeks. Like, there's so much involved in negotiations, but if we can take a 30-minute segment and give you just a couple, like overcoming objection type. Yes.
Double-ended transactions. Do you get questions on this? Do you get questions on this,
Yeah,
Paul?
Paul and I probably get these questions, which are great questions, probably once or twice a week, each of us. So
Yeah.
there's a handful that come in.
Give me a scenario.
So let's say that I am the listing agent and a buyer calls me on my sign and says, hey, I don't have a realtor, I'd like to see the house. And you say, sure, I'll show it to you this afternoon. That buyer ends up deciding that they want to write an offer. You end up calling me saying, oh my gosh, I'm a seller's agent, how do I do this? And we talk through all the nuances of that transaction, and you get under contract with this buyer who doesn't have a realtor. And then the question becomes, do I owe equity to fees? And most people say no.
Most people say no.
Most people think the answer is no.
Most agents. I'm like, most.
Yeah.
I don't say no.
Most of the people I'm
You
on the
don't say
phone
no.
with think, well, no. There's not another agent on the other side of the transaction. So I'm not representing the buyer. So I'll let you run through the scenario.
The easiest way to look at a double-ended transaction and look at it from the standpoint of a real estate brokerage firm, okay? A lot of firms still are traditional firms where, one, you can't negotiate your commission, and two, they take a percentage of the commission. So their business model, let's take Coldwell Banker, their business model is to take, we'll say, 30% split. A 30% split of your commission that you earn. If you were to reduce your commission or not take commissions, that company is going to go out of business. So their business model is you can't be reducing your commissions. So an offer comes in and you've got a 6% listing. There's not another agent attached. Coldwell Bankers looked at that agreement. They see 6%. They know that you listed at $500,000. They know that if you sell that property, the number one thing is the total commission. They're going to take 30% of that 6%. If you were to just reduce that out of the blue, they can't run a business that way, knowing what their model is and what they're looking at, earning for those transactions. Our business model is not percentages, but sides. So on a listing, we know we have guaranteed one side. We've got the listing side. And if there's not another agent involved, that means two sides. We've got a chance to have two transactions in the event that we don't have to pay out. Because remember, the commission is being paid out by the company. So companies pay out commissions, agents earn commissions. So if there's not another agent involved in this transaction,
You earn the whole commission.
you earn the whole thing. That top line, section, I always forget the number. Can't think of it on your listing agreement. The top 6%, 7%, 5.6. If there's not another agent involved, you earn the whole thing. Unless you did a variable commission where you reduced it a little bit. But there's still always two sides to every transaction. So that's on a listing agreement.
Yeah, whether you're treating the buyer as a customer or whether you're representing buyer and seller as a transaction broker, it doesn't matter.
And so that's the next thing is the relationship doesn't matter to us. They're a customer, transaction broker, agency. We see a listing. We know there's two sides. If we're not paying out a side to another company, we've got two. Pretty simple. The easiest way, and if you ask Paul, hey, because you will ask him eventually, hey, do I have to pay two transactions? And the easiest way for us to explain it is if you had the opportunity to earn two sides, there's two transactions. If you decide this buyer came in, I didn't do any work for him, he's going to write up the contract himself, whatever the story is, if you decide that you want to forego some of your commission, that's on you. That's fine.
That's fine.
We allow that because we're a transaction company. It makes it simple. We're not a Coldwell Banker where you can't do that. But you can't give up our side. You can't give up our transaction, the company transaction.
Yeah.
And I'd say probably 20% of our transactions are double-ended. You know, and so I account for that in running a company and running a business. We can't give away deals, especially when you're only a $4.99 company. You need that extra 20%. So
Yeah.
you're fine to negotiate your commission, but you can't negotiate our commission.
Right. Exactly. So the other scenario that comes up relatively frequently is for sale by owner.
Yep.
Hey, I've got a buyer. They found a for sale by owner on Zillow. They wrote an offer. Because there's not another agent involved, do I have to pay 2 transaction fees?
And so I go back to, again,
That's-
did you have the opportunity to earn 2 sides?
In a for sale by owner, no.
No.
You don't have a listing.
You didn't have a listing. They were the listing agent, if you would take it that way. They were marketing their own property. You had the buyer. You never had that opportunity to have 2 sides.
So in that scenario, just
Nope.
the 1 transaction fee.
Just the 1 transaction fee. So it really comes almost every single time down to a listing. If you had a listing agreement and there's not another agent involved, there's 2 transactions.
2 transactions.
That's the
automatically.
easiest thing to figure out.
Yeah. And what about the scenario of, hey, I just got a call from a good friend and her neighbor wants to buy the house and they've asked me if I would do the paperwork for them. Is that okay? I'm going to do a flat fee commission and I'm going to treat them each as a transaction broker. Do I owe 2 equity fees on that?
See,
So run it back through.
the and again,
algorithm.
we're easy. We make this very fair. You really didn't have the opportunity to ever get that listing. You didn't know about that deal. So that's one transaction.
Yeah,
We're going to charge you 1 fee, regardless of what you charge, regardless of if it's a transaction broker, if you work as customer over here. So the relationships aren't really what's important to whether or not we charge. It's, did you have the opportunity?
Yeah, so in an off-market sale scenario like that, but if you had the listing and your seller comes to you and says, oh, by the way, my neighbor wants to purchase it, it's already on the market, it's already in the MLS, well, now you've got a double-sided transaction because you had the opportunity with the listing and the buyer. So.
Yeah. And that comes up, geez,
A lot.
a lot. There's a lot of times where, a friend, family member, whoever, they've already got the deal worked out and they just want you to do the paperwork. Remember that you have to do all the regular due diligences. You have to do everything that you would normally do on a transaction, attend your closing and all those.
Yeah, so make sure that you're charging a good flat fee
Yeah.
or a good percentage. Don't do it for $1,000.
No, I mean, every transaction you're a part of, you have an opportunity to have somebody take you to court over something, which means
There's
you
risk.
have risk, and your deductible is always $1,000 with your E&O. So make sure you're making enough income for the risk.
Yeah, exactly. And then Paul just posted a really good comment in the comment section. Do you want to read that one out loud for everybody?
Yeah. So quick note from compliance standpoint, so our back end, when you double end a transaction, we need 2 sets of paperwork. Listing and under contract for the listing side and buyer packet for the buy side. By submitting 2 packets, you're establishing 2 separate files in payroll system. Yeah, very, very good point. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, don't put it all just into
one packet. You got to have it broken out.
Yeah. Thanks for being here. Really miss you guys. We'll see you next week, and we got good stuff. Have a great one.
Happy fall.
See ya. Happy fall. That's right.